The sun was shining bright the next morning when Maria opened her door. She was still thinking about what had happened the day before. The image of those Navy SEALs standing in front of her little home was something she could not forget. It felt like a dream, something too big for their small world. Emma was still sleeping, tired from all the emotions of the previous day. Maria looked at her daughter's peaceful face and whispered, "My brave girl." A little while later, there was another knock on the door. Maria's heart jumped. She opened it slowly and froze. Standing there again was Commander James Porter, dressed neatly in his Navy uniform. Behind him were two young men in casual clothes carrying boxes. He smiled kindly. "Good morning, Mrs. Lopez. May we come in?" Maria nodded quickly. "Of course, sir. Please come in." Commander Porter stepped inside, looking around their small, clean room. There was only one table, 2 chairs, and a small bed. The walls had cracks and the curtains were faded, but everything smelled fresh and tidy. Maria had always kept it that way. Emma woke up when she heard voices. When she saw the commander, she jumped up from bed. "Oh, good morning, sir," she said, trying to fix her hair. He smiled warmly. "Good morning, young lady." "You didn't think we were done with you yet, did you?" Emma looked confused. "Done? I don't understand." The commander laughed softly. "Yesterday I told my men about what you did. They couldn't believe such kindness came from someone so young, so we decided to come back and do something special." He motioned to the 2 men carrying boxes. They set them down on the floor and opened them. Inside were bags of groceries, fresh fruits, canned food, and even some toys. Emma's eyes grew wide. Maria put a hand on her mouth, tears filling her eyes again. "Sir, we can't accept all this," she said. Commander Porter shook his head. "You already did more than enough. This isn't charity, it's gratitude." He then handed Emma a small envelope. "This is for you," he said softly. She opened it slowly. Inside was a letter with a gold seal at the bottom. It said she had been awarded a full scholarship by the Veterans Honor Foundation to study at any university of her choice when she finished high school. At the bottom was the commander's own signature. Emma looked at him speechless. "But why? I didn't do anything big." The commander smiled kindly. "Kindness doesn't need to be big to matter. You gave your last $5 when no one else stopped. You didn't ask who I was or what you would get in return. That's real courage." Outside, some neighbors had gathered again. They were whispering and taking pictures. Children pointed at the Navy cars parked on the street. Emma's school friend Lily came running over. "Emma, what's happening? Are you famous now?" she asked, half joking. Emma laughed shyly. "No, I just helped someone who needed food." Commander Porter heard that and smiled. "You helped more than you know." Then he turned serious for a moment. "Emma, I didn't tell you everything yesterday. I was part of a small kindness project with other retired SEALs. We wanted to see if compassion still existed in our world. I dressed like a poor veteran to find it. We had a small camera nearby for safety, but what we recorded was more than we hoped for." Maria looked shocked. "So it was all a test?" He nodded. "Yes, ma'am. And your daughter passed it in the most beautiful way. We shared that video with our foundation last night. Hundreds of veterans watched it and every single one of them cried." Emma didn't know what to say. "You mean people saw me?" she asked softly. The commander nodded again. "Yes, and they saw hope." He then gave her a small blue box. Inside was a shiny silver coin with the Navy SEAL emblem engraved on it. "This," he said, "is a SEAL challenge coin. We give it only to those who show true heart and honor. You've earned it." Emma held it carefully as if it were made of glass. "I'll never lose it," she said. The commander smiled proudly. "I know you won't." Just then one of the SEALs outside called, "Commander, it's ready." "Ready?" Maria asked. He grinned. "Come outside. I think you'll like this." They all stepped out. Parked in front of their home was a small black motorcycle with a bright red bow tied to it. Emma gasped. "Is that for me?" "Yes," the commander said. "We figured you could use an easier way to get to school. It's a gift from all of us." Maria's eyes filled with tears again. "This is too much, sir." "You've already done enough." He shook his head gently. "Ma'am, we're just doing what she taught us, to give when you can." Neighbors clapped and some even cried. The small street that had always been quiet was now full of joy and noise. A few SEALs helped repaint Maria's old door and fix the broken step on the porch. Others carried in more supplies, helping without saying much. For the first time in many years, Maria felt like the world had not forgotten her. She remembered all the nights she had cried alone, wondering if life would ever be kind again. Now standing there beside her daughter, she felt hope blooming in her heart. As the day went on, Commander Porter sat with Emma and Maria on the porch. He told them stories about his time in the Navy, about bravery, teamwork, and never giving up even when things got hard. Emma listened carefully, her eyes shining. "Sir," she asked softly, "why did you stop helping people after you retired?" The commander looked down for a moment. "Because I thought no one cared anymore. I thought kindness had disappeared. But yesterday you proved me wrong." That simple answer stayed in Emma's heart forever. When evening came, the SEALs began to leave. Before getting into his car, Commander Porter turned to Emma. "Remember something, young lady. The world can be harsh sometimes, but kindness is stronger than any weapon. You showed us that." He saluted her one last time. The sound of engines filled the street as the SUVs drove away, leaving the neighborhood silent once again. Maria and Emma stood at the doorway, watching until the last car disappeared around the corner. The sky was orange with the setting sun. Emma held the coin tightly in her hand. "Mom," she said softly, "it feels like we're dreaming." Maria smiled. "Maybe we are, but it's a good dream." That night they cooked dinner with the new groceries. The small room smelled of soup and bread. Emma placed the silver coin on the table and looked at it again. "Do you think I can really go to university one day?" she asked. Maria touched her hand gently. "Yes, you can. You earned it, my love. You made the world notice you, not because of money or power, but because of your heart." Years passed after that day. Emma finished school with top grades. The Veterans Honor Foundation helped her attend college. She studied medicine and became a doctor who worked for a hospital that treated veterans and poor families for free. She never forgot the lesson she learned when she was 15, that one small act of kindness can create a chain of miracles. On her desk in her office, she kept two things: a framed picture of her mother and the silver Navy coin. Every time she looked at them, she smiled and whispered, "It only takes one act of kindness to change everything." And somewhere far away, Commander James Porter would sometimes tell her story to new recruits, ending it the same way every time. That little girl with $5 reminded the world what real honor looks like. Maria had been a maid in a small-town hotel for as long as anyone could remember. She woke up before sunrise every day, tied her hair in a bun, and went out to clean rooms while her daughter Emma got ready for school. Life was not easy, but Maria never complained. Her dream was simple. She wanted her daughter to have a better life than she did. Emma, only 15, understood her mother's struggle. She studied hard and tried to help her mother in every little way she could. They lived in a tiny rented room above a small store near the bus stop. The walls were thin, and the ceiling leaked when it rained. Maria would fix things with tape and old rags, trying to save every bit of money she could. Some nights they had only tea and bread for dinner. Still, Emma smiled. She believed that good days would come if they just kept being kind and honest. One Friday evening after school, Emma took the long way home. She liked walking by the park because it helped her think. The wind was cold that day, and she pulled her thin sweater tight around her. As she passed the old bus bench, she noticed a man sitting there, hunched over. His clothes were dirty and his shoes were torn. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. Emma slowed down. People were walking past him without looking. Some even crossed the street to avoid him. The man had a small sign made out of cardboard that said, "Veteran, hungry, please help." Emma stopped and looked at him. He raised his head slowly, and she saw the sadness in his tired eyes. He was old, maybe in his 70s, with gray hair and rough hands that shook slightly. Emma reached into her pocket. She had only $5, her last bit of money that she was saving to buy thread for her craft project. Her mom needed her to sell those crafts to help pay the rent next week. She hesitated, looking at the man and then at the small store nearby. The voice in her heart whispered softly, "He needs it more." She walked to the store and bought a sandwich and a small bottle of juice. Then she returned to the bench and held out the food. The man looked surprised. "You don't have to do this, young lady," he said, his voice weak but gentle. Emma smiled shyly. "It's okay, sir. You should eat something warm. My mom says we should always help when we can." The man blinked a few times, trying to hold back tears. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You remind me of someone I once knew, a little girl who used to bring me food when I was in the army." Emma didn't know what to say. She just nodded and smiled again. "Take care of yourself, okay?" As she walked away, she turned back once and saw him eating slowly, looking up at the sky as if praying. She didn't realize that small act would soon change everything in her life. When Emma got home, Maria was sitting at the small wooden table, counting coins for groceries. "You're late," Maria said gently. "Did you stay at school?" "I saw someone who needed help, Mom," Emma replied softly, placing her bag down. Maria looked at her daughter and saw that same kindness she always saw in her late husband's eyes. "You did the right thing, my love," she said. "Helping others is never wrong." That night, Maria lay awake thinking about their bills, the rent, and Emma's future. The hotel where she worked was cutting staff soon. She didn't know how they would manage, but she also thought about her daughter's heart, the pure kindness she carried even in hard times. It gave her hope. The next morning, Emma went to school as usual, and Maria walked to the hotel with her cleaning cart. Around noon, while she was scrubbing floors, the landlord came by their room. He knocked and left a small envelope taped to the door with a note. "Give this to Mrs. Lopez and her daughter." When Maria returned home in the evening, she found the envelope. Inside was a neatly folded letter and a photograph. The letter said, "For the girl who gave her last $5. You reminded me that kindness still exists in this world." The photograph showed a young man in a Navy uniform standing proudly with other soldiers. Maria held it in her trembling hands. "This must be the man Emma met," she whispered. She didn't know what to make of it, but her heart felt warm. That night, when Emma came home, Maria showed her the letter. Emma's eyes widened. "That's him, Mom. That's the man I helped," she said excitedly. Maria smiled and hugged her daughter. "You see, kindness always finds its way back to us," she said softly. The next day started like any other. Maria went to work. Emma went to school. The town was quiet. Around noon, as Maria was cleaning a hotel room, one of her coworkers ran in saying, "Maria, something's happening at your house. You better come." Maria's heart raced. She rushed out and took the bus home. As she got closer, she saw a crowd gathering near her small building. There were black SUVs parked outside, dozens of them, and men in uniforms standing in formation. Neighbors were watching from every direction. Maria pushed through the crowd, worried something bad had happened. But then she saw a familiar face. It was the old man from the photograph, standing tall and proud in his Navy uniform, medals shining in the sunlight. Behind him were rows of men dressed in Navy SEAL uniforms. Maria froze. She could barely speak. "What is going on?" she whispered. The man stepped forward and smiled. "Is this where the young lady lives, the one who helped me yesterday?" Maria nodded slowly, her hand shaking. "Yes, sir. That's my daughter." At that moment, Emma came running from school, her backpack bouncing on her shoulder. When she saw the scene, her eyes went wide. "Mom, that's him," she said in shock. The man turned toward her and saluted. "Miss Emma Lopez," he said in a deep voice. "You gave your last $5 to a hungry stranger. What you didn't know is that stranger was me, Commander James Porter, retired Navy SEAL." The crowd gasped. Emma just stood frozen, unable to move. Commander Porter continued, "Your kindness touched my heart. It reminded me that there are still good people in this world, and that's why I'm here today. Not alone, but with my brothers." He turned slightly, and all the Navy SEALs behind him saluted at once. The sound was sharp and powerful. The neighbors went quiet. Maria covered her mouth in disbelief as tears filled her eyes. Commander Porter looked at Emma and smiled kindly. "Young lady, when you gave that food, you didn't just help a man. You honored every veteran who ever served this country. You showed heart, and we don't forget that." Maria was speechless. She couldn't stop crying. Emma stood still, her face red, unsure how to react. "I just wanted to help," she whispered softly. The commander nodded. "And that's exactly what makes you special." The sound of the wind carried the flags on their uniforms. Neighbors clapped, some with tears in their eyes. Maria held Emma's hand tightly, her heart bursting with pride. That night, as the sun went down, Maria and Emma sat together on the steps of their small home. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The street was quiet again, but their hearts were full. Emma looked at her mother and said, "Mom, do you think good things happen when we do good?" Maria smiled through her tears. "Yes, my love. Maybe not right away, but kindness always finds its way back home." Emma leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, not knowing that tomorrow would bring even more surprises. Surprises that would change their lives forever.